О, Анна Зицер, Нью-Йорк.
Hello, hello. Hi, everybody.
Окей. Всем добрый вечер. Меня зовут Елена Захарова, и я с вами беседую из Москвы.
Hello, everybody. My name is Yelena Zakharova, and I
No,
am...
you are Anna Zicer.
I'm translating you. I'm Anya Zicer, guys. I'm all the way in the Big Apple in NYC. It's a pleasure to be here.
Сегодня мы рады приветствовать вас на финальной сессии Limmud Unlimited, организованной московским Limmudом.
This is the final session of the Limmud Unlimited series, which are organized by Limmud Moscow.
И сегодня у нас вау-сессия, которая называется «Свободный разговор о несвободе».
Today we have a wow big session, which is called Unorthodox, Freedom Without Borders.
Мы поговорим с актерами и создателями нового сериала Netflix «Неортодоксальное».
We will get the opportunity to speak with the creators and actors of the Netflix series Unorthodox.
Модератором сегодняшней сессии буду вообще не я, а будет Аня Зицер.
The session will be moderated not by Liana, but by me over here.
И как раз Аня поможет сделать так, чтобы вы себя не чувствовали одиноко. Да, в общем-то, и спикерам, чтобы было не одиноко, хотя их сегодня 5 человек, а вместе с Аней все 6.
I'll try to not make you feel very lonely. Hopefully we will have a heated conversation and debate. We have 5 panelists with us today, 4 actors and the story editor of Unorthodox.
Сегодня, конечно, не банальная лекция, когда спикеры что-то рассказывают, а это действительно открытый разговор, живой, который будет строиться прямо здесь, прямо сейчас, благодаря вопросам, которые подготовила Аня и которые будете задавать вы.
Today is not going to be a conventional, mundane conversation. We hope it will be quite interactive with the help of some of the questions that I have prepared to the panelists, and hopefully you will chime in as well with your questions, which I hope you're already starting to ponder about.
Естественно, чтобы нам было комфортно взаимодействовать, мы в 2 словах с Аней сейчас расскажем о функционале Zoom.
For us to be able to function a little bit easier, we will cover some housekeeping rules of how Zoom works.
Ваше видео выключено, наверное, вы это уже и так поняли, но ваш звук будет выключен тоже.
Your video, your sound is off, but if you do want to keep your camera on, it's always a pleasure to kind of see who you're talking to.
Но мы не знаем, возможно ли это технически включить ваше видео или нет. В любом случае вы сможете задавать все свои вопросы спикерам в чате.
Regardless of whether your video is on, please keep your audio off, and you can ask your questions in the chat below. You see a little chat icon, and you can drop all your questions there in any language of your preference.
Если вы зашли с компьютера, кнопка «Подробнее чат», если вы со смартфона, участники чат, а также на некоторых смартфонах «Подробнее чат».
Depending on what device you're from, if you're from a computer, you would go to settings chat. If you're on the smartphone, often it's in the other setting, in the participants section. If you're on the computer, you will actually see an icon. It is orange right now because I'm guessing people are already dropping those questions in.
Of course. Давайте быстренько протестируем и напишите в чат плюсик или хотя бы что-то, чтобы мы понимали, что вы нас слышите и что хотя бы что-то можете написать.
Let's give it a quick test. Give us some signal from your wherever you are. Give us a little thumbs up, plus, minus, a little heart is always helpful.
Супер. О, кто-то даже пишет на английском. Это очень здорово.
Oh, that's fantastic. Awesome.
Давайте почти финальное. Значит, конечно же, вы можете задать формат просмотра и включать в правом верхнем углу формат просмотра видео спикера.
In the upper right corner, there's a way for you to monitor, to change the way you are seeing us. You could see all of the panelists together, or you can only press the panelist view where you would see each of us speaking one by one.
Кстати, я только что поняла, что к нам на сегодняшнюю сессию присоединились люди не только из России, не только русскоговорящие, но и люди, которым интересен этот сериал, но которые живут в Америке и говорят, возможно, только на английском языке. И поэтому мы вам сейчас кое-что расскажем.
We just realized that actually to this panel, it being unique in a way, we have audience members joining us from all over the world, particularly from the US, and we will tell you something important about that as well.
И мы подготовили, конечно же, для вас синхронный перевод на русский язык и на английский язык, в зависимости от того, какой язык вам нужен.
We have simultaneous translation available in this session, depending on your needs.
Да-да, и мы пригласили, надо вам сказать, 2 переводчиков, которые будут переводить, конечно же, не вместе и не разных людей, но они будут меняться по времени, потому что все-таки 6 человек, которые одновременно находятся на сессии, это многовато для одного переводчика. Поэтому мы приветствуем Ларису Привальскую и Александра Лакшина, которые согласились сегодня синхронно переводить на все языки, которые мы их попросили, нашу сессию.
For this session, we will have not only 1, but 2 extraordinary interpreters, because we have 6 people speaking all at once. We wanted to make sure that we have 2 competent people translating at all times. So we welcome Larisa Privalskaya and Alexander Lakshin with us today.
Надо вам сказать, что в Zoom это организовано следующим образом. Перевод будет не для всех, а только для тех, кому это надо.
Zoom interpretation works in a way that it isn't turned on automatically for everybody. It only is accommodating those who want it and request it.
Поэтому посмотрите, внизу вашего экрана есть значок, похожий на глобус. Если на него нажать, то появится меню, где тому, кому нужно, нужно выбрать русский перевод, а кому нужно, надо выбрать английский перевод.
On the bottom of your screens, you see a little icon of a globe. If you press it, you should be able to choose which language you prefer.
Да, то есть тогда, когда вы нажмете на слово «русский», вы будете слышать переводчика, который вам будет переводить с английского на русский язык. Если вы нажмете на английский, вы будете слышать переводчика, который будет переводить с русского на английский. Знаете почему? Потому что один из актеров у нас говорит, кстати, на русском языке. Поэтому я уверена, что тем, кто не говорит на русском, этот перевод понадобится.
So if you press English, you will get Russian to English translation. And if you press Russian, you will get English to Russian translation. Just to an important factor, even though most of the conversation, about 80% of the conversation will take place in English, one of our actors will be speaking in Russian. So for those who know both languages, don't worry about pressing any buttons. But for those that do not know Russian, I will mention right before he will be speaking, I will let you guys know, so you can go ahead and press that button and get the English into your ears.
Ну что, если все разобрались с переводом, смогли нажать на нужный перевод, это значит, что моя функция на этой встрече, в общем-то, подошла к концу, потому что теперь Аня может остаться одна наедине с вами, говорить, в общем-то, на любом языке, на каком она захочет, и в любом случае вы поймете то, что будет здесь происходить. Поэтому желаю вам удачи. Аня, я отдаю все бразды правления тебе. Мы встретимся с вами по завершении вашего разговора, потому что я, конечно же, подключусь обратно. Не могу, понимаете ли, бросить вас надолго. Но все же, Аня, я прощаюсь. Начинай, пожалуйста, этот разговор и зови всех наших восхитительных актеров и со-сценариста на экран.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you once again, Limmud, for having me here. It's a true pleasure to be moderating. I want to invite all of our panelists to join and turn on their video now. Wonderful, wonderful. They're all coming in. So actors and Daniel. So here with us, we have a few extraordinary key members of the highly acclaimed at this point series, which came out on March 26th in over 100 countries at once. Quite the perfect timing for quarantine watching and international visibility with outpouring of popularity. What I think I personally found quite interesting is that the show's popularity is not necessarily based on examining the extreme of another culture, but rather tells a universal story about someone discovering themselves in a very coming of age and a very relatable story. We have quite a diverse group with us today, diverse group of panelists who came into the unorthodox world from different walks of life. And I hope to open doors into topics within the unorthodox world in this open conversation on freedom without borders. So before we jump into talking a little bit more in depth about the show and some of the themes that and debates that that arise as a result of it, I would like to introduce our speakers. So today with us we have Gera Sandler, a stage and film actor and director. He appeared in quite a few acclaimed shows, such as the Israeli shows The 80s, Betulot, Virgins, The Tale of Love and Darkness, which was directed by Natalie Portman and based on Amos Oz' book. Gera plays Mordechai Schwartz. You saw him in the show. He is the uncle of Esti, our lead. Also with us here, Ronit Asheri Sandler, a stage and film actress. She graduated Beit Zvi. It's Academy of Acting in Israel. She's an actress at the Yiddish Spiel Theater Ensemble in Israel for the last 15 years. She has appeared in new Yiddish rep productions here in New York of Awake and Sing and The Labor of Life by one of my favorite, Hanoch Levin. Ronit plays Malka. You saw her in every episode of the 4-episode series. She is Esther's aunt. Also here with us today is David Mendelbaum. David is a stage and film actor, as well as a director and producer. David worked at La Mama Theater, Theater for the New City, the Common Basis Theater, and other highly prominent theaters in the US. David is also the founder of, as well as the artistic director of the New York-based theater company New Yiddish Rep. He directed its off-Broadway productions of Awake and Sing and produced Rhinoceros, as well as its celebrated production of Death of a Salesman. David plays Zaidi, the grandfather of Esti in the show. Also with us today, a very, very important person for the show is Daniel Handler. Daniel is an American writer based in Vienna and Berlin. So he recently served as a writer and story editor on Unorthodox Netflix series. And also as an episode writer for MAPPA, a German language sitcom for Join. Daniel has developed films and series in many different countries, the US, UK, Germany, France, and Austria. He developed a feature film in LA, producing The Romantics and the Academy Award nominee Margin Call. Last but not least, a very talented actress, Delia Mayer, is a Swiss film, TV, and stage actress. She is known for her work on Unorthodox, Tattered, and The Last Touch. Delia plays quite a fantastic role of Miriam Shapiro, Yankee's mother. So to jump right in and to kind of set the table for us here, so the success of the show, many of us see, raised many, many questions about its accurate portrayal of Hasidic and Jewish life. The show received raving response, along with some critique, of course. Many ex-Hasids are saying that, in a way, the show is a copy-paste of what they've experienced in Hasidic communities before they left, while others are saying that this is a very one-sided, so to speak, representation of a very closed community. So even though it's a character-driven story rather than a documentary about the Satmar community. It's fundamentally based on an autobiographical story by Deborah Feldman and her book that I've read and enjoyed very much, Unorthodox, The Scandalous Rejection of My Hasidic Roots, which was then expanded and embellished during the adaptation process. So we see a very fine line here where it's bordering with reality. And there's a heated debate all around us on the numerous counterpoints of religious and non-religious, mystical versus mundane, and factual versus fictional, and so on and so on. So I want to turn to Gera Sandler, who is a dear friend and colleague who I love and admire, and to ask you, Gera, to if you can kind of set the stage for us here in terms of how do you feel that the show accurately portrays Hasidic life and its limitations? In other words, where is the border of the portrayal of the Jewish community as a whole versus a story of an individual discovering their personal freedom? And more broadly, how does one even begin to thread the needle and tell a story like this one without generalizing or simplifying an entire culture?
Во-первых, огромное спасибо, Анечка, за то, что такая возможность случилась благодаря тебе поучаствовать в Лимуде, который проходит даже виртуально и в данных условиях в городе Москва, потому что это московский Лимуд, это город, где я родился, в общем-то, и вырос, поэтому это особенно приятно. Можно поговорить на русском языке, это тоже мой выбор в большинстве своем в связи с тем, чтобы просто обратиться, как сказать, на московском Лимуде по-русски и, надеюсь, по-московски, если мой московский говор еще не нивелировался. Я думаю, 2 переводчика у нас есть, они справятся с задачей, 2 это лучше, чем 1. А 1 тоже хорошо. Но ты задала вопрос, на самом деле, я думаю, и для нас, для всех, и для меня в частности, на 4 Лимуда, а то и на 5 сразу одновременно. Хотя, в принципе, ты на него ответила уже, так сказать, когда раскрыла тему нашей нынешней встречи в самом начале, потому что, собственно говоря, если разговор идет о выборе, если разговор идет о свободе, естественно, индивидуальная личная история, она всегда интереснее, чем какая-либо, так сказать, общая концепция политическая или социальная. Что бы мне хотелось тут заметить, дорогие друзья? Я много вот думаю на эту тему, и мне вспомнились 2 вещи. Те из вас, может, кто постарше, я уже просто не знаю, честно говоря. Многие люди многого не знают. И смотрели фильм «Белое солнце пустыни». Ну, для тех, кто не знает, и для наших иностранных многочисленных участников объясню. Это фильм о бойце Красной Армии, который освобождает 8 или 9 жен одного, значит, так сказать, ну, будем говорить, такого мусульманского боевика в старые времена, бандита, главаря банды, он его убивает и их, значит, ведет к советской власти, все они перевоспитываются. Фильм очень положительный, с большим юмором, мне странно очень об этом говорить, потому что люди его знают. Значит, вопрос в том, перевоспитывает ли он их или не перевоспитывает. Почему я его задаю? Потому что единственный эпизод, который был вырезан из этого фильма, когда после очень красивого, практически голливудского момента перестрелки с этим бандитом он, наконец, падает, и все освобождены, единственный момент, который Госкино советское посчитало нужным выбросить, и правильно выбросило, с точки зрения своей коммунистической идеологии, что эти женщины бросаются все-таки к трупу своего убитого мужа и плачут над ним. Не потому что он бандит, он их бил, он их заточил в гарем. Потому что, во-первых, они другого не знают, во-вторых, это их жизнь. То есть вот так они привыкли. И за весь этот фильм этот красноармеец, конечно, не перевоспитал их, несмотря на то, что он прекрасным образом к ним относился, гораздо лучше их бывшего мужа-тирана. Это первый аспект. Я пока не хочу ничего связывать. И второй аспект. Я очень часто думал об этой фразе «не судите, да не судимы будете». мы всегда интерпретируем, как вы не судите другие сообщества, да, не судите других, иначе Бог вас осудит, в конце концов, вы получите наказание. Это, мне кажется, простая интерпретация. То я подумал, не судите, да не судимы будете. То есть, давайте посмотрим на это так. А кто вам дает гарантию, что вас те же сообщества, которые вы обвиняете, не осудят с другой стороны? Вы не будете осуждены этими же сообществами. То есть, по совсем простому, мы с вами приходим в зоопарк, видим, ну, грубо говоря, я просто не хочу ни с кем сравнивать, чтобы не было никаких параллелей неприятных. Обезьян, показываем на них пальцем, говорим, какие идиоты. Обезьяны смотрят на нас, говорят, какие эти люди идиоты. И теперь давайте я хотел бы вот это все связать одной маленькой историей про то, что недавно мы ездили на гастроли в Монреаль с театром New Yiddish Rap, вот, значит, художественный руководитель которого здесь присутствует, и мы вдвоем там играем, как раз со спектаклем Ханоха Левина «Labor of Life», работа жизни нашей, по-моему, дни жизни нашей, она по-разному переводится. Ехали мы втроем на машине, значит, и водителем был переводчик как раз и консультант этого сериала Эли Розен, который занимался идышем, который говорил Ребе. И он мне рассказывал 6 часов о том, как он, собственно, из хасида стал экс-хасидом, стал свободным человеком. Значит, дорогие друзья, 6 часов он рассказывал. Значит, он начал с возраста своего где-то 10-9 лет. То есть с того момента, когда зародилось в нем сомнение в том, что так, как он живет, это правильно. Именно в голове. Не в том, что там все хасиды, там, простите за выражение, друг друга насилуют или скрывают какие-то вещи или там что-то. Нет, нет, нет. Его личное сомнение в том, что его жизнь в этом сообществе является правильной и настоящей. Значит, 6 часов он мне рассказывал со своего возраста, когда ему было 9, до нынешнего момента. Это значит, что это, и я думаю, что у всех, кто были бывшими хасидами, кто вышли к так называемой, опять же, к так называемой, потому что никто не сказал, что такое свобода и где ее границы. Ну, на мой взгляд, просто это просто свобода выбора. Вот ты выбираешь вот так, и ты за это платишь, да? Мы тоже выбираем на самом деле, кем нам быть. Когда человек понимает, например, что он гей, это тоже путь. Пойти, признать это в себе, рассказать это другим и так далее. Когда человек, извините, получает известие о том, что он смертельно болен и как ему жить, это тоже путь, да? Когда человек решает эмигрировать в другую страну, это тоже путь. Каждый путь индивидуален, как и у людей, как у любого человека, который решает то же самое поменять свою жизнь и выйти из какого-то строгого очень сообщества со строгими законами и принять на себя законы какого-то другого мира, скажем так, свободного. Потому что, как замечательно показано в сериале, да, этот свободный мир Берлина, это, кстати, мне было видно. Я не смог сразу выбрать, что лучше, свободный мир Берлина или закрытый мир вот этого сообщества, потому что все это имеет и свои плюсы, и свои минусы. Так, во всяком случае, для меня это так построено. То есть, опять же, это индивидуальный выбор человека, и совмещая все, и заключая, я могу сказать, что вот по моим примерам из вот этого многим вам известного фильма, по вот этому, может быть, немножко грубоватому, но правдивому примеру из зоопарка, потому что, или вот такие вот вещи, мы не знаем и не можем знать, поэтому рассматривать такую историю с какой-то общей генеральной точки зрения, это не только неправильно, на мой взгляд, простите, но это мое личное мнение, это преступно. И в этом смысле этот фильм, он очень хорош для меня, потому что очень большое значение здесь имеет именно индивидуальная история. Возможно, из-за этого как раз у многих были претензии по поводу того, что, ну почему не раскрыты истории хасидов? Ну почему не раскрыты, так сказать, в Берлине более истории людей? Мы, конечно, как артисты понимаем знаменитое выражение, не знаю чье, что свита играет короля, но в данном случае, что надо как можно больше рассказывать о его свите, но мне кажется, что в данном случае именно крупные планы, которые тоже некоторые почему-то осудили, именно крупные планы Эстер, именно ее внутренняя работа, ее внутреннее мучение и сомнения по поводу личного выбора, поставленные в этом сериале во главу угла, и именно это делает этот сериал не общим, не каким-то рассказом, где одна община, одно сообщество может погрозить пальцем другой, а то и просто плюнуть, а именно делает индивидуальные истории. И мне кажется, как любая история, это история вот о любви. Но не о той любви мужчины к женщине, или там, я не знаю, компартии или к Богу, как мы говорили, или к себе любимому. Это история о любви, о способности понять чужака, способности понять того, кто не является членом твоего сообщества, то есть не живет по твоим законам, а живет по другим. Это очень сложно, это вызывает большую дискуссию, и в этой связи, чем большую дискуссию вызовет этот сериал в этом плане, тем он, на мой взгляд, лучше, и тем больше у него будет рейтинг. Все.
Thank you, Gera. Thank you indeed. I absolutely agree with you. And the amount of homework that I was doing in preparation for this session showed that the extremes are quite far away, and some of the gaps between them are deep, delving into deep questions, as you mentioned, of the judgment of another culture and the need of choosing your path. I would like to actually delve a bit deeper into learning a little bit about some of these major decisions and questions which were being asked during the development process. And for that, I want to turn to Daniel Handler, who was the story editor of Unorthodox Screenplay. I understand that Daniel's significant changes were made to Deborah Feldman's book, especially starting from Estee's departure from Brooklyn, from Williamsburg. The viewer, I think, inevitably ends up comparing Estee's life before and after. I'm wondering if we can even begin to compare the freedom of an individual from the Satmar community with the freedom that we have come to associate with, let's say, modern, cosmopolitan, Western culture, so to speak. So how did you, as a team of writers, address this question when adapting such a book? And how did those big decisions influence what made it to our screens?
Well, the first and primary concern was that this was always one woman's story, and it was one woman who didn't fit in this particular community, and someone who, partly because of herself, partly because of how she was raised in her family, felt that she knew she was different, but she felt that she was the problem, that being different was the problem. So we wanted to tell a story that really was a coming of age story more than it is a story about this one particular community. And so we wanted to put her in an environment where she realized that being different wasn't a liability, but was more of an asset, was something that she should be proud of instead of being ashamed by. And in terms of why we changed, why we made a fictional character rather than use Deborah's real life, there were myriad concerns, I would say. There were some practical matters that in real life, I don't know how many viewers know Deborah's actual story, but she did not go to Berlin right away. She actually was a mother first and then got divorced, and she stayed in the US and got a college degree. And she details some of that in another memoir she wrote called Exodus. And partly because we were making a 4-episode TV show, we had to get her to Berlin faster. So there were some practical concerns just in that matter. But then it felt, because we were representing this community that so rarely gets portrayed in popular culture, and we wanted to be as accurate as we could to the details of that of that culture. It was freeing in a way to have Esti be a fictional character, so that when we got to Berlin, we would have a lot more freedom creatively to design the world in a way, and also more freedom to tell this other woman's particular coming of age story.
Got it. Very interesting. And just a quick technical question. I'm just curious, was all the writing done prior to the series being filmed, or was some of the rewrites were happening along the filming?
Oh my God, no, it was all throughout the entire process.
Oh, okay.
Which is for an American show, which
Not very typical, right?
No, actually that is more typical, that you, like, for my role being a writer on set, I was there just to make sure everything worked. I'd watch a few takes to make sure the writing was working. If department heads, if the costume department or the camera department or the direction department or the actors had questions about something, they could come to Anna or come to me or Alexa. But a lot of the times once I would see that a take was good, I would just sit there and rewrite scenes that were going to be shot in the next few days. And yeah, it was just so fast. The show was greenlighted in October based on a 3-page summary document of what it would be. Anna wrote a first draft incredibly quickly, and we were filming by May. So it's for TV, that's very, very, very fast.
Impressive. Yeah.
So we had our table read for the Berlin stuff, which was, most of that was shot after the Yiddish language scenes, but although it all kind of blended together. Like, we had our table read, which is where the actors come in and read the lines, and we hear how the dialogue sounds and see if it works. That was, I think, happened 2 weeks into production. So that is kind of rare. But yeah, it was very fast, and we were constantly rewriting, probably to the chagrin of some of the actors and production departments. But
I have a lot more questions for you about the adaptation and the book, but I'd like to first get to the other panelists, and then I'm sure we're going to get a lot more questions from our audience here today. But thank you for all of that helpful insider information. And I'm sure it was quite challenging to kind of decide and determine of what makes it to our screens, and how to differentiate her story from a fictional elements that you, I think, beautifully portrayed as a result. So I'd like to actually go back a little bit into the conversation of the controversy and the judgment, so to speak, and get to a nation that I happen to be part of that happens to be quite judgmental. But I would like to actually talk about the perception of different communities. And in order to do so, I'd like to turn to an extraordinary actress, a dear friend with whom I got the chance to share a stage a few times, and actually helped me and Limmud put this gathering together. It's Ronit Asheri Sandler. So Ronit, as an Israeli, right, as Israelis, we see that a major topic of Israeli filmmaking is focusing on the dialogue between Hasidic and secular communities, right? And the complexity of the religious world, right? We're very curious about that. And this is a topic that is delved very, very deeply in our culture and our society. So at all times, you will see new movies and series and productions concerning the topics are being released in Israel on an ongoing basis, again, it is deeply rooted into our society and a major point of friction. How do you feel that the show is different from portraying the community, and how do you think Israelis are responding to the show in comparison to similar TV shows in Israel? And why do you personally think specifically that this show is getting so much attention, both from Israelis and not?
So first of all, the show is successful all over the world. Of course, it's a hit. I can say what I heard from people like my friend, Israeli friend, first of all, everybody loved it. But I can say there is reaction were positive, and of course, there is always those who have something to say about small details from the community. But I can say that a lot of religious people and even ex-Hasidic who wrote me, I can say they mentioned the show is very authentic, and also they flow the problem in the ultra society. I mean, everybody found it's very, I don't know, different, like, but the show, especially from religious Hasidic people, I think they found it very, very, they loved the show. They found it very authentic, but also a lot of Israeli secular people, they say that it's not, how to say it in English, lo amin.
Not believable. Not believable.
Yeah, some of
Not
the
believable.
story, they say it's maybe sound, it seems, it's, yeah, לא אמין בכמה חלקים מהסדרה, my English.
So not believable in some of the parts of the series.
Yes, but I can say it's very, people love it, especially in Israel, yes, and I think this show is so successful because, first of all, the actors play very, very good. So, you know, the casting for the series was very accurate. This is the first, I think, this is the first thing that I can say. The second, there is the story there. In the story, there is everything that, you know, make this story very, very good. Like there is freedom, there is religious, there is maybe love story, identity. So I think this is what make this show very, very unique, successful. And yes, I think this is my...
Gera, would you like also, as an Israeli and as both a director and an actor, would you like to comment on it? And we can have everybody choose to be translated into English.
Ну, давайте я попробую, потому что это опять-таки, Анечка, ты задала вопрос, так, это программа на 4, а может и на 5. Дело в том, что как-то я общался с одним человеком, он сказал, я в моем присутствии не разрешаю никому рассуждать об Израиле, если он хотя бы год там не прожил. Или вот никому, ни хорошо, ни плохо. Он, конечно, так, это рисковато, но в этом есть доля правды. Вот Дэвид, он тоже некоторое время пробыл в Израиле, я не говорю о тебе, Анечка, ты там выросла, прожил, поэтому он может сказать, что он понимает, о чем я говорю. Это очень сложная ситуация в отношении всех сообществ в Израиле, какие только есть. Что касается религиозного сообщества, для тех, кто, может быть, не знает, опять же, потому что израильтяне, бывшие, настоящие, они меня поймут. Это сообщество ультрарелигиозных не любит никто. Ни правые, ни левые, ни русскоязычные, сильно правые, ни малоправые, ни либералы. Они везде, кроме, так сказать, определенных кругов, нелюбимы и, естественно, обобщаемы. То есть я прекрасно могу понять то, за что их обвиняют, но при этом, опять же, я думаю, что вот этот сериал, просто если мы в общем говорим, это тоже определенного рода прорыв, еще один шажок в сторону понимания вот этих людей. И я думаю, что на самом деле еще очень хорошо, может быть, кто-то из вас видел фильм Paradise Now. Это фильм об шахидах за день до того, как они идут, так сказать, на дело. Фильм замечательный. И замечательный он тем, что там тоже индивидуальная история. Без всякой генерализации и обвинения. Индивидуальная история человека, что с ним происходит перед тем, как он туда идет. И причины очень личные. Значит, что я хочу сказать, почему он такой успешный? В некотором смысле, потому что режиссер этого фильма не палестинец с территории Палестины, а из Европы. У него есть некоторое отстранение. Здесь нам тоже в этом плане повезло, я могу сказать точно, потому что Мария, наш режиссер, она немка из Германии. Ее взгляд на это сообщество хасидское, на сатмаров, он все-таки немножко со стороны. Поэтому нету пленки осуждения. Поэтому ей не нужно было прорываться через то, что мы знаем. Понимаете? И я думаю, в этом плане, опять же, сериал выигрывает, потому что это иной взгляд немного со стороны, когда у нас была сцена свадьбы, вот Ронит не даст соврать, и Ребе танцевал вот через эту веревочку, да, с невестой. Вы знаете, я много видел всяких хроник по этому поводу, и всегда я говорил, о, что это как за корова, а он ее на веревке там, это там, и вообще далеко, там, за километр прыгает. А здесь я посмотрел в этом фильме по отношению, как это было сыграно, у меня почему-то проступили слезы на глазах. Это зависит от того, с каким отношением ты приходишь. Я сказал режиссерше, я говорю, Мария, я хочу на этой свадьбе быть. Мне нравится это сообщество. Конечно, оно мне нравилось в рамках этих съемок. Я тоже не знаю ее в полной мере. Я там не был, я там не жил. Но опять же, вопрос того, что в связи с тем, что в Израиле это очень сложная ситуация, и она сложная во многом из-за того, что очень много осуждения и очень много пропаганды со всех сторон без того, чтобы понять, что это. Я сидел очень часто в самолетах, в переездах из Нью-Йорка в Тель-Авив и обратно. Я сажусь с хасидами, потому что я говорю на идиш, и они меня все, это как код, они меня принимают. Но при этом я сидел с одной женщиной, и поверьте мне, из-за того, что я с ней разговаривал, она от меня как бы не отстранилась, но при этом проходила другая женщина, и она просто так фыркнула и не хотела с ней садиться. Она ничего не знает про эту хасидскую женщину. Она ничего про нее не знает. Она просто знает то, что обычно говорят. Это очень сложная проблема. В то же время в тех же самолетах хасиды требуют, чтобы все садились, вставали, потому что им нужно молиться. Вы понимаете, какая это сложная проблема? Но нужно как-то пытаться все-таки не судить. И в этом плане этот сериал, он шажок, чтобы не осуждать, а понять личную индивидуальную историю, понять, чем это пахнет.
I want to say, add something together. I don't understand Russian, but like I have a few words I understand what you're saying. I want to say, to add, that I think the story is different because the director take it to another, she didn't judge this community. She didn't judge the people. She just put this individual story about this young woman who tried to find her voice, trying to find her way in this world. And this is what makes this show different from other things that I see. She didn't make the story by cliche. She didn't did it. She put it in a different light. And this is what makes so different and make people love this show so much.
Кстати, когда говорят про клише, между прочим, от религиозных я тоже получил очень странные сообщения. Вдруг, неожиданно, они, ну, конечно, не ортодоксы, потому что это не смотрят, но вот умеренно религиозные, или, скажем, не умеренно, но те религиозные люди, которым можно смотреть телевизор, тоже набросились даже на меня, потому что, а вот, русскоязычный актер, выбрали, он играет пьяницу. Это правда, это в чате. Я написал, ребята, я на русском языке на кастинге не разговаривал, и вообще его не делал ни в Израиле, никто меня там не знал. Это никто, религиозные люди тоже думают с их стороны, что есть какие-то клише. И те, мне кажется, которые обвиняют в клишировании этот сериал, это тоже идет из-за некой пленки самообороны. Вы не знаете, кто мы такие, вы не знаете, как мы живем. Другие говорят, нет, мы знаем, как вы живете, да? И поэтому найти вот этот тоненький голосок, который мы пытались найти в этом сериале, и в основном авторы замечательные и режиссер, вот как Дэниэль говорил, вот он говорил абсолютно то, что я считаю таким же образом, вот собственный голос, прорваться среди тех условий, в которых ты живешь. Это как раз замечательный шаг вперед для понимания и для того, чтобы этот сериал был известным и обсуждаемым.
So you guys are bringing up a lot of, I think, very interesting points. And again, despite the many points of friction and the judgment, it seems that perhaps, Gary, you mentioned that a little bit of what you just said, right? About this little tonki, right? The sudden little voice. I saw, and I've read a lot and saw a lot of responses about the female component of the show as a very relatable aspect for not only Jewish groups, but also others. I'd like to actually turn to Delia and kind of jump in a little bit deeper into the female role in the show and beyond. So Delia, who beautifully, in my opinion, portrayed the essence of a mother-in-law, right? A Jewish mother and mother of a man, again, in the best way possible. So in the traditional culture, I think, of the Satmar Jews, conveyed in the series, we see the woman is having a very powerful yet prescribed role, right, in the community and family. So you play an integral and pivotal role in Esti's journey, in her realization of kind of the female template she is not, and that she's trying to escape, right? Particularly after the scene, you come in to her house and confront her about their sex life and her needing to make your Yankee happy, right? So I wanted to ask kind of generally about the role of women in the community that you saw by being in the series, and also did you find it challenging to portray this kind of woman, and how did you go about maybe your research for this role, and how did playing this role maybe affect you as an actor and as a person? We just need you to unmute yourself. Yes. Perfect.
I would start backwards about the challenge of playing such a character, which is extremely high, I mean, that's what we want, to be challenged, and also to be able to get food and to dive into something which is not really very close to who you are. And that's what was basically really interesting, to represent something which I would not represent as a person, but then dive deeper into it and really discover the love of that person, because you basically have to get into the soul of that person and love the person, even maybe if you play a murderer or whatever, but to really understand what is her need and what she's fighting for. And although it might come over very mean, how she controls Esti's life and Esti's sex life, and she kind of functionalizes. The only thing which is interesting for her is that she needs to function. Esti needs to function, and that comes across very harsh and mean. But in a way, she is fighting for her beliefs and for her life, like we do as, what you said, Western, modern, free people. We kind of fight for our values, and we think we are free. And if someone fights for different values, we shut off, or we start to fight, and we are afraid. And that's the same thing for her. She is kind of protecting the life she's living. And anyone who would go into a different direction is endangering the whole society, and endangering, like Miriam, my life, and endangering my son's life. And what I think is really touching and interesting is that she says, am I a queen then? If your son is a queen, a king, can I be queen?
It's a beautiful moment.
And it's a very beautiful moment. And the thing is like, has Miriam asked that question to herself many times, or did she not even dare to ask that question to herself, because she might not have been so brave? Like Esti is a very brave person. Miriam was not that brave, I think. So she would not allow any doubt and any question. So she would just fill in and function to not endanger the whole living together. And what I think, to end this, what I think is really interesting, that women, like in many societies, are very powerful in passing on in passing on how the family functions. And it's the inside world they control, not the outside world. But inside, they're very powerful. So it's not actually a victim way of living together.
Thank you for this. I absolutely agree with you, and I'm sure it wasn't easy to portray, and yet, but an interesting challenge as an actor. Before we open it up to the questions, because I see they're already pouring and I'm getting some help here by identifying the best ones, I actually want to turn to a very special guest with us today and talk a little bit about a major choice that was made in this series. So I want to turn to David Mendelbaum as a very talented actor, director, and as the artistic director of a top Yiddish-based theater company here in New York, Yiddish Rep. So David, having worked with Yiddish language and text pretty much all your life, and engaging ex-Hasids in your work, I want to turn to you and talk a little bit about your personal Yiddish connection, but also the Yiddish aspect of the show as a whole. So we saw a few examples of a few mainstream extensive use of Yiddish in the last couple of years, right? Shtisel is a great example, also on Netflix. In Unorthodox, I think clearly the homework was done very, very well, very properly, right? In comparison to other films where Yiddish is used in a very sloppy, in my opinion, way. Here we have, I want to say 75% or so of the show of Unorthodox is spoken in Yiddish, again, which was clearly a choice instead of them, I don't know, speaking English with a Brooklyn accent. So I want to ask you generally about the use of Yiddish, and more broadly, what do you think it means to use Yiddish in such a mainstream way, and engaging a much larger public around the world? And why do we see that this choice of using Yiddish is being made more and more often these days?
Well, first of all, I would like to say Shalom Aleichem, everyone, and thank you for having me here. There is a general trend now in film. Many films now are multilingual, whereas previously the choice was made to portray characters who spoke other languages in the language of the country that the film was made in. More and more today, films that have characters of different nationalities are multilingual, and I think that has extended into Yiddish. And I think it's a fortunate choice. Also, Yiddish has emerged from the underworld of Jewish life, especially in Israel, where for quite a long time the use of Yiddish was discouraged and even looked upon as negative, as the language of the shtetl Jew, much as African Americans looked upon English as a slave language, as the Zionist idea of the new Jew didn't include Yiddish in their idea of this. And so one of the things I'm particularly, although I am not, wouldn't exactly praise the Hasidic community for many things, one of the things that they definitely have done for us is preserve Yiddish as a spoken language, a language that's spoken on the street, and that is still not, it's been popular to use the term post-vernacular, that Yiddish is a post-vernacular language. And the Hasidim are the proof that it is not that it is a language that is still very much alive. What we've done in New Yiddish Rep is to try and point out that it is not only alive, but that it has something to say, and it is possible to, how shall I express this? When we did Waiting for Godot, for instance, in Yiddish, the general reaction of people, and many of the people were not interested in Yiddish, they were Beckettians, they were people who loved Beckett, and they would come up to us and say, wow, I've seen this show 10 times, and seeing it in Yiddish has really opened my eyes to things that I never saw before. And that is to me what is most important, to make people realize that Yiddish can illuminate other works, illuminate ideas that perhaps were hidden or weren't readily apparent. The people who made Unorthodox made a point also of authenticity was something that was very, very important to them. And the Yiddish, whereas I knew Yiddish rep, I don't particularly care the dialect that the characters in our Yiddish production speak in, so that one person can be speaking in Galicianish and the other can be Litvish and the other can be Hungarian. They made a point really of sticking to the Satmar, the Hungarian accent, and in every way, not only in the Yiddish, but in the liturgical Hebrew that was used. And Eli Rosen, one of our company members and someone who got started in theater through New Yiddish Rep, he was the technical director, the consultant on Yiddish and Hasidic custom in the Satmar community, and they made a real attempt to make it as authentic as possible. You know, there have been films coming out lately, like Menashe, I don't know, which is also available on Netflix, that deals with Yiddish. One of Us, which is a documentary that was very popular on Netflix. The interesting thing is not only the relationship of people who leave the community to the religion, but their relationship to the language that they have left behind. And one of the things I feel that is very positive about the use of Yiddish now in mainstream film is that it encourages people who do leave the community to stay with their Yiddish rather than to reject it along with everything else that they grew up with. And for a long time, people who left the community didn't want to speak Yiddish because they associated it with all the negative aspects of their experience in the community. So I'm hopeful that this trend will continue. And I am hopeful that it will also encourage the young native Yiddish speakers to engage in Yiddish theater and thereby preserving the legacy of Yiddish theater as a living artistic language, a viable language as something that can create and express itself artistically.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. I think I hear a lot of conversation about that, and generally for a language which, you know, many of us are already in one way or another only professionally, right, and are involved with, we see that overall in a mainstream stage arena especially, we see that it's not as relevant. And I'm personally very happy to see that there's quite an interest and curiosity about that. So thank you, David, very, very much. So I think we are at this point, we have about 30 more minutes. We can open it up. There's a lot of exciting questions coming in, some specific ones, some general questions, and maybe the first one I can direct actually at Daniel because it's a plot-related question. The person is asking, to better understand the community, I have a question regarding the scene with Esti, where Esti is calling her granny from Berlin for support, and grandma didn't accept her and kind of puts the phone down. Does it mean that Esti no longer is welcomed in her family and she's on her own now? And I'm going to add, I guess, for me, kind of that representation in a way is a very serious cut, right, of her maybe realizing she's never going to come back. How did you guys address this, again, this bipolar, right? Williamsburg versus Berlin, and her versus her old self.
Yes, I think in that moment, it's mostly shock for Bubby, you know, and it's something where you see in the next episode when they're talking about how when Bubby mentions that Esty called and she hung up, it's something that she regrets, I think, and something that she is kind of shocked by. And I think it's just, I see it as something much more personal rather than a statement about the community as a whole. But obviously that is a theme, like that's something that is present. And I know that's been a criticism of the show, but again, coming back to, this is the story of this one woman's experience in the community, and she was different and she was not well treated because of those differences. And just like the real Deborah Feldman faced a lot of difficulties when she left from the community that we didn't get into in the show. Some of it because it would just open a Pandora's box that would take us down a different avenue than we wanted to explore. Some of it that came later with like a legal fight, you know, for her child. It was something that we wanted to show that this decision she made would have consequences, that it was not going to be so easy just to talk to Bubby again, to reconnect, to have, it was not possible at that point for her to have both worlds when she wanted them to.
Got it. Yes, absolutely. Makes sense about the Pandora box, again, due to all of the outpouring judgments that we see from all sides. I think the next question might be also directed at you, Daniel, but I guess I'll open it up. A few people are asking, actually, how do you go about producing a Netflix series? Where do you get the funding? Where do you get the producers? Who do you bring your script? How do you even go to begin? I think I'm on your side in terms of and being an actor and not knowing so much about film producing, but maybe one of you could give us an insight from what you guys know on, first of all, how did Unorthodox pursue Netflix and was able to, you know, create this? And also, how would you recommend other people and filmmakers, assuming this question is coming from Russia since it's in Russian, how would you recommend, what are some of the steps to get to something like that?
Should I start, I guess?
I think so, yeah. I
okay.
think it's more appropriate. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in this case, it was Netflix coming to Anna specifically.
Oh, I see.
Because Anna had this great success with her previous show called Deutschland 83, and then the follow-up Deutschland 86. And the way Netflix works now, as I'm sure everybody notices, there's 25 new series every day, it seems like. And they have local language hubs in maybe not every country, but there are dedicated executives to the German-speaking region and to Scandinavia, to France, I assume to Russia. There must be to Russia. And it was something where Anna wanted to do this show. It is clearly not the typical Netflix drama. You know, this show that's half in Yiddish, and much of their programming is very specific to their local markets. So I think we were kind of a weird stepchild in that sense, and maybe not the prototypical Netflix drama. But the process was basically them coming to Anna having this idea to do this show based on Deborah's life, and they said yes, as long as we could make it very, very quickly and for a certain amount of money, which we were able to do. Mm-hmm. I think they are looking for content. I mean, I think they are clearly, obviously, looking to work with more established filmmakers, but because they're ramping up so much, it seems like all over the world, I do think if you're a filmmaker in Russia or anywhere and you've maybe had an independent film or even short films, I would say try to reach out. I mean, it certainly couldn't hurt, and maybe if not creating a project yourself, maybe they have something that you can work on, because they're really, yeah, that's their mission right now, is to just, I think, generate a lot of self-produced content.
And it's quite a good time now that everybody are on quarantine for God knows how long. Daniel, since I have you on the line, I'm sure you get this question quite a lot. Is there a second season?
It ends so beautifully, don't you think?
I do, but everybody are asking, when is the next season? Because in a way it ends very abruptly almost. Right, Ken? We want to know what is happening with her. Where is she going to know? Was she accepted? Was she, how is her life going to unfold with all of this baggage?
Yeah, now I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but
You already know the answer. I heard it from another panel I've attended.
Yeah, so there's no plan right now to do a second season. We do feel like this journey, going back to what I feel is the core of the show, is this coming of age story. That moment when Esti realizes that these experiences she's had, she can bring with her, and the difference she feels and what she loves about the community she can still have. And also have this new life where she does feel like she fits. In that sense, I think her journey does kind of end, or that part of her journey ends. Who knows, maybe, these days, nothing is ever really over, I guess, if they can do another season of Big Little Lies and all these other shows.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So who knows down the line, if Anna and Alexa have a terrific idea and are inspired, it could happen, but as of now, there are no plans for a second.
I guess another question, maybe to Delia, since you're involved in that world that Esti's going through. Very blunt question from a dear friend. How do you think the fact that Esti had vaginismus affected somehow her decision?
From my point of view, I think it is very important that it's a big thing. Though of course, we have like Deborah Feldman's personal story, so we know, or as we read that, we know what's the basics of that fact that was taken into the Netflix series. So it had a big place there too. But I think from the female point of view, within the community, it is very important because, as it's told also in the series, it is important to grow a family. It is important not to stick within your private, individual life. I mean, that's one part of it, but it is more important to be part of the community and not to feel your personal fulfillment like we do in a contemporary, as you said before, again, society. So it is more important to take one step back and be part of a community by contributing more a family. And I think as Esti is not able, or it's not whatever, she's not able, but her body resists. Let's say her body resists to that function, and not giving her the space to go an individual way, resists to that plan. And I think that's a very important thing, because she feels reduced to her biological function, which she is in a way. And therefore, again, as Daniel said before, she feels different, and there is something very big which is different with her, which doesn't fit in the bigger plan, which makes her feel awkward or weak or hurt. So she cannot deliver what she thinks she should deliver. And I think it's a very big part in the whole thing.
Absolutely, yes. To jump to, again, a completely different world as we do with Q&As, David, I'd like to turn to you because there are a few questions here, and you spoke a little bit about Ellie Rosen and the involvement of ex-Hasids. So some of the questions here, did Orthodox people were involved in making of the show? Did Orthodox people approve? Somebody asked if Orthodox people approved the show. Did they see the show as a result and say, oh, this is a great representation of our community. And for me personally, I saw a lot of little elements in the show that made me also wonder, like, and I know it has been a point of debate of whether the newlyweds should be been having sex in their nightgowns, and is the bride really covered with the cloth for her entire wedding and we can't see her face, or the strimal, right, the fur hats. I know those were not used with real fur. What are your thoughts about kind of the accuracy of the Orthodox kind of the proper way of showing their real life, and also were they involved in the making of the production, and if so, how, and how did they respond to it as a result? Big question.
Well, as I said, Ellie Rosen was the consultant on the project, and he was on the set every single minute to oversee the accuracy of how Hasidic customs were depicted, the accuracy of the Yiddish and the dialect that was spoken. And it was very important to them. And Eli is an ex-Hasid. If you go to our website, there's an interview with him talking about his life as an ex-Hasid. A lot of the people who had smaller roles are also Malky Goldman, Melissa Weiss, are ex-Hasidim, and Jeff Wilbush, who played the heavy, the gangster Hasid. He comes from a Hasidic community in Israel, where he ran away from it at the age of 13 and wound up in Germany, and is now a very well-known German actor on stage and film over there. So there were a lot of people involved in the production that knew exactly what this was about, and were very careful. It was their job, really. I'll give you a quick example. In the wedding scene, where there are long shots of people, a lot of people, I would have my hands in my lap like this, with my hands like this. I don't know if you can see my hands with my fingers interlaced. Every time I did that, Jeff would turn to me and said, "No, don't do that. It's not done in the Hasidic world because it makes a cross. It represents a cross, and anything that represents, even suggests a cross, is not something that one does." So even little things like that no one except somebody who was really steeped in that world would think twice about. They were very careful to make sure that these things were, and still there are people from the Hasidic community who challenge the pronunciation, who challenge the depiction of sex in the Hasidic community. There is pushback. There's a lot of pushback, but one thing you have to understand: the Hasidic community does not watch Netflix, so there's not going to be a whole lot of. If they watch it, it's when they go on the street and they see a television in a store window, maybe they'll stand there and watch for a while. But no, they don't. As a matter of fact, television is one of the banes of the community, because it exposes the young people to the wider world, and it sets them off on the wrong path, or leaving the right path. So the pushback from the Hasidic community is mostly from people who have left the community and are looking back and saying, "Well, you didn't do this and you didn't do that." It's a Jewish thing, you know. You would expect that.
Two Jews, three opinions.
Yeah, exactly. But no, they were very careful about it, and it was very important to them that every detail was authentic and truly representative of the community.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of questions about that actually. And some woman is saying that, you know, she actually heard that the religious community was quite offended. And do we think that it has done any harm, you know, to the religious communities that are likely not following the same rules that the ones shown in the film and so forth. So you spoke to that extent, but I think that question is always going to be with us when it comes to shows like that.
Well, the Hasidic community it's a closed community,
Mm-hmm.
and they want to keep it closed because any interaction. One of the lines that I have in the show at the Seder scene is that when we try to dress like the Gentiles and we try to I don't know if people remember that scene, but that's always when we get into trouble, when we try to leave the confines of our customs and what we see as our face. So the Hasidic community is going to push back on anything and frown upon anything that exposes the young people to the wider world. Because look, the internet is a great subject of contention with the Hasidic community. There are stores in telephone, you know, cell phone stores in Williamsburg and Borough Park that specifically sell kosher cell phones.
Right.
They obliterate anything that would be offensive, any sites that would be, so they go to great lengths to insulate themselves. So you would expect them to frown upon.
David, do you think, somebody's asking a good question, do you think that such a show could affect the level of sexual education for religious young folks?
If they're gonna turn the TV on.
Because we saw that it has been such a major, I think, element of the show of this young couple not even remotely knowing.
Here's a question.
Where to go? Mm-hmm.
On the one hand, look, Ellie told me a story about somebody he knew back in his day in the community, a young man who had a nervous breakdown on his wedding night because he didn't know what to do. On the other hand, there are families with 15, 16, 17 children. So obviously
they figure it out eventually. They figure it out eventually, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, I would hope that such a show would.
Well, that was something that was the point of contention in an article. If you want to look it up in the foreword, the English foreword, that, you know, this was a specific case, and it didn't accurately depict the general level because of the fact that she had this condition, and therefore it was a very specific thing to the person and to that couple. But the sex education in its, like you say, they figure it out. Nature takes its course, you know, and contrary to, you know, when we grew up, there was this whole thing about how the Hasidim had sex through a sheet. They made a whole, there were all these kinds of ridiculous stories. Yeah, they figure it out. I think Ellie told me that the most children he knows of in a family is 21.
Impressive.
So they manage. But I don't think the sex education that they get is going to leave the bounds of the Talmud and how it's approached from their particular point of view.
A couple of thank you, David, so much. A couple more questions to Daniel, I guess, about the script. First of all, was there any process where the script needed to be approved by Netflix? Were there any corrections that were made after, or this was all up to your writers team?
Well, yeah, I mean, first and foremost, it was Anne and Alexa who were the creators and showrunners, and they are really the kind of, I would say, the final creative backstop, and then of course working with Maria and Shira and the department heads. Netflix did have notes, but they were more about like narrative and pacing issues, like how we structured the flashbacks to Williamsburg was an issue, and that was something that was a difficult balance to find of how to keep the story balanced and paced. So we had things happening in the present, but we were still learning about Este's history. And then as some of the actors, as David mentioned, and the other actors have mentioned, it was really, Ellie was so invaluable and wore more hats than anybody else on set. So a lot of the questions about the, I would say, authenticity or about the Satmar culture, that wasn't so much from Netflix. That was really more Ellie and even some of our extras or actors who came from that community. That I would say they were our source of notes and everything. I mean, we would come to them with questions, and things like the wedding scene was essentially we were sitting there with Ellie and figuring out how to write it and what details there would be, and even down to the background conversation that you can't even hear. Like when Este shows up for what I call the meet cute with Yankee, we wrote all of these, we wrote dialogue for everybody, even though you don't hear it. And that was something that Ellie would tell us, this is the kind of conversations people might be having, stuff like that.
Anya, I have a question for Daniel. Can I ask?
Please, absolutely.
Okay. Daniel, why, in the United States, Deborah's book was published as a memoir. In Germany, it was published as a novel. Was there a particular reason? Was there that choice was made?
I have no idea about that. That's a good question for Deborah. I think I'm almost hesitant to speak about it because I've only heard about this in other interviews. I know there were certain aspects of the book that she wasn't happy, or she's talked about her experience working with the publishers in America, and I think she felt they were trying to package her as something that she wasn't, or market her as something. I remember in some interview she mentions that a publisher said to her that she was going to be the next Lena Dunham, and Deborah thought, I don't even know who Lena Dunham is. I'm me. What does she have to do with this? So I think maybe it had something to do with that, but I know that Deborah now seems to only publish in Europe or in Germany. So I'm not, I think it might have had something to do with her experience with the publishers in the US, but I think
her experience in the US was not very good. I mean, she got a lot of pushback, a lot of hostility from the Hasidic community. Even her fellow off the derech, OTD, as they say here, people gave her a lot of pushback about the book. So it seems natural that she would leave and not look back.
Yeah.
On the topic of the pushbacks, there's actually a question about Russia that I actually want to direct to back to Gera. It says, my friends in Russia wrote to me that such a film in Russia might bring in a certain, I mean, let's say we can just say anti-Semitism, right? In the big picture, but bring in some sort of negative connotation towards Jews, and that the show kind of opens that and might be triggering that. Gera, what do you think about that?
Ой, я очень ожидал, что ты этот вопрос переадресуешь мне. Я прочитал его. Я бы сам для тебя отнял бы инициативу по поводу этого вопроса. Вопрос, с одной стороны, очень интересный, с другой стороны, меня в некотором смысле раздражающий, в хорошем и в плохом смысле этого слова. Почему? Потому что все-таки, несмотря на то, что мы с вами все вместе говорим по-русски, я все-таки себя считаю израильтянином, и в этом плане у меня мнение очень простое. я сам вырос в России до 17 лет, и я прекрасно понимал, как мы, как дедушка мой общался со своим соседом. Моего дедушку звали Рахмель Нахманович, а соседа звали Борух Гидальевич, вы понимаете, два абсолютно русских человека. Перед Песахом, да, те, кто помнит, в Москве, это сейчас можно купить во многих местах, продавали мацу только в большой хоральной синагоге. И он ему так шел рядом с ним в деревне, да, на даче, где на километры никого нет, одна дорога. И аккуратно ему говорил сосед: завтра у церкви морковку будут продавать. Это значит, у синагоги будут продавать мацу. Понимаете, это немножко, мне кажется, галутный страх. Говорит во многих и русскоязычных из России товарищах. И в Америке я такое слышал не один раз. Не надо, как говорил Галич, не надо, люди, бояться. Этого не надо бояться. Бояться нужно не произносить то, что ты хочешь. Если ты хочешь показать что-то с любовью, с настоящей, люди поймут. Не случайно вот у моей жены, она тоже может это сказать, очень много поклонников из Иордании, именно из Иордании сериала, из Египта. Мы проживаем сейчас в Нью-Йорке, в районе, где живут люди из Доминиканской республики, которые очень многие даже по-английски-то не очень разговаривают. Но сериал этот почему-то смотрели здесь очень многие, и он им очень нравится. И вызывает он, даже я бы сказал, гораздо более положительные чувства, чем он зачастую вызывает у евреев. Потому что у нас все-таки в связи с нашей большой историей, с нашим большим горбом, как сказал мне незнакомый психолог, игрушек и какашек, которые еврейский народ несет на спине, у нас очень много страхов. И здесь, мне кажется, бояться не надо, потому что в связи с тем, что я с удовольствием, опять же, сделаю комплименты и кивок в сторону Дэниела, и с удовольствием поблагодарю моих партнеров по сериалу за то, что действительно сериал о любви и сделан полюбовно, поэтому бояться нечего.
Спасибо. Thank you, Gara. One more question to Delia until I want to ask kind of a big question to everybody and wrap our fine gathering. But a question about Yankee is there some kind of a hint to the fact that for love, Yankee would be willing to also leave the community? As his mother, I wanted to ask you what you think, and maybe Daniel can also quickly comment. But I think you're on mute, Delia.
You mean the question you're asking is
there's a moment in the 4th episode where Yankee comes and says, okay, let me cut off my payas and what now? And, you know, just for the price of love, he seems to, for a second, be willing to leave the community. Do you think if maybe there was a continuation, was that something that his character would have been exploring further? So I'll ask you and Daniel, and then we'll
I'd say what I decided for my character, for him, in a way, no, he wouldn't be able, because first of all, he comes out of this community that I represent. What I explained before is like doubting, is fearing, and I think if he would have been given the space within his heart to leave, then the story would have gone differently from the top. Mm-hmm. So saying that SG wouldn't have left without him, because he could have developed before, he could have changed things before, but as he's not given these possibilities, out of whatever it is, out of fear, I'd say, or out of being pragmatic, or out of not daring for himself to rise certain questions, I think he would never go there. It's a sign of, it's an outbreak of wanting not to lose and not to be hurt. But in the end, he could not go there because he'd be lost in a way. I think like Moshe is lost in a way. That's why he came back. Moshe didn't come back because of his beliefs. He came back because he could not build a life which is staying for him. And yes. And I think it would be a similar thing to Yankee.
Yes, absolutely. Daniel, do you wanna comment on that?
Yeah, I agree. It's something that all of us, at least from the writing team, had different opinions on where the characters would go. I do feel like Yankee is someone who we see that he is emotional and a bit impulsive. He asks for a divorce. He basically tells Esty that he wants a divorce when he doesn't really mean that. And I think it's something that in the moment he's so wrapped up in it. And I think he thinks in that moment he would leave for Esty for a chance at love with her. But I think ultimately, like Delia said, I don't think it's something that he's quite ready to do. Maybe down the line in a couple, who knows? But I think if you look at the three of them, the three main characters of Esty is someone who knows that she's doesn't want to be in, despite the tribulations she faces. Moisha is someone who has kind of 1 foot out and 1 foot in, and is in turmoil for that. And I think Yankee is the other side, where he does feel comfortable there. He does feel like this is his community. And I think if we saw him a couple weeks later or a couple months later, he would be happy that Esty told him no, don't
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But he
I have to
cuts
say,
off his
I don't really agree with that, because I think the crack would stay. There's a huge crack which stays within his heart and his life. But I think he would just push away the doubt to keep on going, because the other doubt would be even bigger, too big to handle.
Oh yes, yeah, I do. Yeah, I agree with that. I what I meant is, I would say it's not something that he's ready to cope with. If
But
he
he cuts off his payas.
Pardon me?
He cuts off his payas,
He
which I
does,
thought
yeah.
was a tremendously symbolic move on his part. And once you do that, it's really a real break.
It is, but he's far away from home. He's in a different world. He's in a hotel room. He's totally lost, I think.
I'm more with Daniel. I think it's a very impulsive thing. And we also forget, Delia, for me, I think in Orthodox community, they have a lot of tools to cure his disease, to calm him down, and to prove him that ST is something that gone. And also, I think that he's not like the strongest person in this world. So
Exactly.
I think also the mother, she will take care of him in this case.
I tend to agree.
So
I think
somehow this crack, I think he will come over this crack. So I would.
He will, but the crack will be there. He will,
Right.
and he's a
Okay,
sensitive
maybe.
person. So,
Maybe.
and I think as a point of view as an artist, it is always more interesting to see the double side of it.
Yeah,
It is much more interesting to say there's a crack which he has to deal until the end of his life, but he will deal with it because the community is strong enough. But the crack is there, which is much more interesting to a human's life and an artist's statement.
Delia, I have to say I very much agree, and this is big pros to Daniel and the writers team, because I think what you guys did pretty well is open up, is create a good enough arc for every character with enough of those cracks, and for allowing us as audience to question on ongoing basis. I still go back to the series, even though I watched it a few weeks ago, and wonder about some of the characters, their relation to each other. And so I want to kind of wrap up our panel with maybe each of you, starting Ronit, if you can say each, just in very short and brief, kind of your heart in Unorthodox. You in Unorthodox, like, what is the essence of your role, both as a person and as an actor, in this magical and very complex and interesting project?
So this is a big gift for me as an actor, to play so different from me as Ronit, as people know me, and they see me the first time that I do, very bitter woman, and very different from who I am. So for me, it's a gift as an actor to get this role so different from me in many ways. I'm so happy. I'm first of all, this is my first thing that I do ever in television. So I hope more things to come after this. I fell in love with Malka. I think Malka, she had everything in this role, everything that actor can get. And maybe I hope for season 2, you know, something about Malka to keep writing about her story. I don't know, just
Thank you.
I throw.
It's like Better Call Saul, you know, another series about
Yes, yes.
Malka, but I hope, no, I just say, people ask me, does Malka married or what happened with her life? And I just said, okay, this is for season 2, you know. People can
Yeah, let's hope. I know there are a lot of people who would absolutely love that. Gera, take
Я
the mic.
быстро на этот раз скажу, очень быстро, без разворотов. Это единственный сериал в моей жизни. У меня было несколько сериалов. Если у меня получалось заплакать на сцене, то в связи со спецификой сериалов никогда не получалось плакать на экране. В этом сериале на свадьбе я расплакался по-настоящему. Так что можете себе представить, какая атмосфера царила на съемках, потрясающая, что такая внутренняя свобода. Я буду помнить этот сериал, я не знаю, будет ли второй сезон, но это момент счастья, который надо хорошо запомнить, положить в свое сердце и носить в кармашке.
100%. Спасибо. Thank you. Delia, please give us your last wisdom before we part. I don't know if Delia can hear us, so maybe we'll...
Yes, no, I didn't. I was still in the translation mode. Go again. Sorry.
Just your quick kind of where does your heart lie in terms of the Unorthodox series, both in terms of you personally and your role?
That's hard to explain in a short words, but first of all, when I got this email if I want to do an audition on tape and I should just sing a song in Yiddish or tell a joke, I remember that it would just stay with me, and I was always singing this song and telling these jokes, and something came up from my old family, stuff that we hadn't talked about. As my family comes from Poland and Russia 2 generations ago. So a very, very personal anchor came into my heart that pulled me. And I knew right away that this has a lot to do with my system and my life. Even more interesting that I had to play a character which was so far away from who I am. So it was, as Ronit said, this was a highly challenge to go there and then to find a love for this person. And what I found was that she is a fighter in a way, and she fights in an honest way and tough. She doesn't fight twisted. She fights straight forward in her beliefs, and that I think makes her so strong. And that was challenging to just go for this fighting for your beliefs, and that touched me a lot, although she's a difficult character.
Thank you, Delia, very, very much. So we'll jump right to David and then Daniel, and then we'll wrap up.
For me, well, of course, I'm a first generation away from the old country. My parents came from Poland, and I couldn't help thinking of my grandfathers when I saw myself dressed in the costume as a chassid. But apart from the nostalgic aspect of it, my interest was the Yiddish, and the hope that young people seeing this film will say, maybe I ought to consider taking some of the acting workshops at New Yiddish Rep and getting into Yiddish theater. The problem is they all want to be movie stars. But my hope is that this will inspire young native Yiddish speakers to get into the theatrical arts and the performing arts, and will also inspire Jewish actors, English-speaking actors, to learn some Yiddish and become part of the Yiddish artistic community.
Thank you. Daniel.
I just feel
wisdom before we part.
Oh, well, I have no wisdom. I just feel grateful that to be a part of it and to, you know, help Anna and Alexa realize their voice and all of that. I think all the credit goes to Maria and all the actors who brought so much empathy and life to the characters that were just on the page. And I think it's a credit to everybody here that, like, there's not a single villain in the story. I think you read it and everybody has a different point of view, but you understand where they come from and they feel all like real people. And that just, it was just such a pleasure to work with everyone. And I hope the story inspires people, the Estes of the world who feel different to know that they have a place out there and they should not feel ashamed of being different, and hope that they can find their communities, and just that it increases empathy for everybody, right? The people that we view as outsiders or think are strange or maybe even dangerous, maybe to try to put ourselves in their perspective. And I think that's the goal of all storytelling is to try to create empathy. And I hope we've done that to some degree.
You certainly have. Thank you very much. Thank you. I very much appreciate all of you panelists joining us, and Ronit helping me and Yelena and Limmud Moscow navigate and put this all together. And thank you for joining us. And I will be passing on the stage to Елена Захарова.
Ну ладно, не будем, во-первых, говорить, что это уж я дала возможность. Я просто тебя знаю, поэтому я тебе написала. Но поверь мне, вся программная группа московского Лимуда имеет к этому отношение, и поэтому спасибо вам огромное за то, что ты ответила на мой WhatsApp или Facebook, или куда я там тебе звонила и писала. Спасибо огромное вам всем, что вы сегодня были, и мне кажется, что даже недостаточно, чтобы я сказала слова все, поэтому я представляю прекрасного человека, которого вы видите практически на этой сессии первый раз, хотя уже давно здесь заседает, так сказать, без видео. Это Саша Ливергант, как раз это глава программного комитета Московского Лимуда. И мне кажется, такой человек, такой должности, такого уровня, такой красоты должна что-то обязательно сказать, тем более, что это финальная сессия нашего Limmud Unlimited. Саша, тебе слово.
Лена, спасибо. Аня, большое вам спасибо. Замечательная получилась сессия. Большое спасибо всем нашим гостям, кто сегодня был с нами. Я вот еще не успела посмотреть сериал, но теперь я сегодня же вечером засяду. Я думаю, что все 4 серии я за сегодня одолею, потому что мне столько всего таких зацепок вы дали замечательных. Я уверена, что те, кто смотрели сериал, так вообще слушали с особенным интересом. И одно дело, когда ты видишь человека на экране, а другое дело, когда ты видишь его живым, и когда он с тобой разговаривает, пусть даже и по нашему пандемическому зуму, все равно это очень здорово. Я очень благодарна всем, кто организовал наш Limmud Unlimited. Это последняя наша сессия в рамках этого месячного марафона. У нас прошло много сессий из разных стран. Это были и спикеры, и лекции, и вот такой совместный разговор, как с вами. И это замечательный опыт, и он очень расширил наши вообще представления о Лимуде. Но главное, что характерно для Лимуда и живого, и вот такого онлайнового, это то, что мы все вместе, мы говорим на одном языке, что нам интересно друг с другом, и мы рады друг друга видеть и слышать. Я буду счастлива видеть всех вас на московском Лимуде в следующем году. И буду счастлива видеть всех наших слушателей, всех наших волонтеров, всех наших просто людей, которые знают, что такое Limmud. И буду очень рада, если вы поддержите нашу работу. Это можно сделать на нашем сайте. И следите, пожалуйста, за обновлениями в наших соцсетях и у нас на сайте. Может быть, мы еще что-нибудь замутим, если карантин вдруг продлится. А если не продлится, то до встречи на Лимуде в следующем году. Всего хорошего. До свидания.
Спасибо. Thank you.
Спасибо вам.
Спасибо вам всем, друзья, и до встречи. Bye. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, everyone.